Hello, citizens of the planet. Welcome back to Monday Musings with Larry Lelli. And sorry about the slight delay on today's musing. I wanted to talk about a recording session that I did recently, and so this is going to be a bit of a drumtastic episode. So those of you who are not drummers, you may not want to listen to this. Although anyone who is a musician may have some interest in this, because some of this stuff applies to all musicians. But the first thing that I do when I'm on my way to a recording session is make sure that I bring these. My isolation headphones made by Vic Firth, which are awesome. They sound great. They really block out a lot of the sound from the live acoustic drums that I'm playing, so that I don't have to crank the volume up so loud in the headphones. I can listen at a nice comfortable volume. They're especially wonderful when you're playing really, really long recording sessions and your ears have to be listening to a lot of music all day. You don't want to have to crank the volume up so high, especially if you're using click tracks, which we did all that day in the studio. And almost always when we're recording these days, it's to a click track. So I like to bring those so I don't have to blast my eardrums full of loud click track or other instrumentalists in my headphones. And the other thing that I do when I'm going to a session and I don't quite know what we're going to be asked to do, I'm given the general idea of the session, which was we were going to record X amount of pop songs and these kind of styles and with these kind of ideas. I was just given some basic things. So I bring a whole lot of stuff. Mostly a ton of different cymbals, so that kind of whatever I'm going to be asked to provide, I should have it ready and at my disposal. So I bring, at least one huge bag, sometimes two, full of varying sizes and flavors of cymbals, all of course Sabian, which you all know that I love so much. And, I actually brought one. I had an idea that I might be asked to play something that sounded like a gong, so I actually brought a China cymbal and an ozone cymbal, which Sabian makes a few different models of, but I bought a really big one. And if you hit it really lightly with a mallet, it can kind of sound like a gong. So I had, and splashes and all sorts of, different hi-hats and all sorts of different crashes and rides and such. So I try to be very prepared for anything that might come along. I also knew that there was some ethereal music that we were going to play, so I brought a lot of little bells and tinkly chime things and a nice mark tree, all sorts of little sound effects, ankle bells even. And then once we got there and I realized what we were going to do, there was this one track that was full of all these thunderous tom-toms. They wanted it to sound, like an army full of tom-toms kind of coming at you. And so we laid down the main basic track first, which I just played normally. And then I went and overdubbed a whole bunch of other basically tom-tom tracks over the top of the main track. And I stole a trick from Steve Gadd, which those of you who are drummers, you all know who that is. The world-famous, legendary master drummer, Steve Gadd. Is a trick that I saw him do a long, long time ago. Is sometimes when he wants to fatten up the sound and make it sound like more than just one person playing, he'll actually put two sticks in one hand and play. In each hand. He will put a pair of sticks in each hand, so that every time he plays, he's getting twice the amount of attacks. And if you're a little loose with your grip, you will actually get two different sounds. It won't always sound like a clean, perfect flam, but it's going to sound like several drummers playing at the same time. So I actually did a whole take of that with using 4 sticks, just to sound a little sloppy on purpose. And I think it came off very well when we listened to it in playback. I haven't heard the final masters yet, but those are a couple things that I wanted to share with you all about my last time that I was in the studio and kind of what I do to prepare, what I bring along, depending on the kind of session. I knew this studio that I was going to, and I knew they had a great selection of snare drums that were going to be perfect for this music, so I knew I didn't have to bring a snare drum. I will often bring my own kick drum pedal. And, whatever, a whole couple of bags of mallets and sticks and brushes, rods and roots. I used all sorts of different instruments or implements on this session, because we also wanted to get other sounds too. So I did a whole pass on playing just on the rims of the drums using some roots, and which were made of very, very thin dowels. They're packets of very thin dowels, basically, all bundled together. And so I could get a lot of different percussive, effecty sounds. And they put a bunch of reverb and something else on there. I can't remember what it was, but it made it sound really like lots of different footsteps and clacking and stuff like that. Okay, so those are just a couple things, a couple tips to tell you about the studio, my latest adventures here in New York City. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you next week.